Alright, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. So, what we're going to be doing next is we are going to be sending some probes out to Jool and its many moons. And we're going to be doing this so that we can get the contracts unlocked to find all the little tidbits. Now, the way I'm going to do this is actually going to be a multi-launch. You'll see that in a minute or three. But I'm going to be building this little probe backwards from the bottom up, and that'll make more sense in a minute or five. Let me do this. Let me also do this. So this probe is going to be a base design for a relay probe. Or I'm sorry, not a relay probe. Just raw exploration. Now, it's a little wide, but yeah, I'm gonna want to pull those in. I hate to do like really excessive clipping, but sometimes it's necessary, and for what I'm doing here, it's unfortunately kind of necessary. Alright, so we're going to stick one of these up on top, and because we always do, remembering that right now we're getting science returned from... I'm sorry, we're getting funding returned from completing those science experiments. So that's a good thing. Right, let me see which way these open. Are they? Yes, they're on the top. So I'm actually going to want to do these like that. And I'm going to bring them down a little bit. Awesome. Alright, now let me pull these in, just make it a little tighter. Alright, am I forgetting anything from this probe? We have a probe core, a reaction wheel, a whole bunch of power. We've got fuel and an engine, almost 5,000 delta V. And it's light, so the thrust to weight ratio you can see there is 0.16, so it could be a lot worse. Alright, that's not bad. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this as a subassembly. And now we're going to build our real probe. Now this one is going to basically just kind of function, excuse me for a second, is basically just going to kind of function as like a relay bus for those other probes. How do I want to do that? I'll do RTGs, that's fine. And I'll pull those in just a little bit. Alright, this is going to be one heck of an expensive rocket. But frankly, it's okay, because we have money to spare. Not what I want. That's what I want. We have money to spare. Now, this is where things get a little weird. I'm going to have to build a little assembly thing here. And what we're basically doing is we're going to be giving ourselves some probes that can be deployed once we are out around or near Jool. So we're going to get this to Jool, this whole big thing. And then we're going to deploy these little probes around Jool and send them off into its moons. That's the basic theory behind this. Now, I'm also going to want to do... I would do 2 of them. Why the heck not? Doesn't matter. Alright, and I'm going to want to strut these. Because not doing struts is begging for difficulties. Okay, look at that. Alright, so custom 1 is all those... I'm sorry, custom 2. Custom 1 is going to be all this stuff. And look at that. 600,000 for this probe. This mission is probably going to cost us at least $1 million. So it's going to be pretty significant. Get down there. Alright. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it might cost us considerably more than $1 million. We'll see. And I'm going to be decoupling these manually, so the control group for them doesn't really matter too much. Alright, so we're going to call that our Julian relay. And this is where things get a little annoying. You know, the fairing width, I don't like that I have to make it slightly wider than the 2.5, but you know, such is life with that particular antenna, the antenna dish. Okay. It's not too bad, could be a lot worse. Right, now let's get ourselves a good booster. Where's our skipper? Alright, there we go. Now this will have, even right here, yeah, it's a considerable amount of delta V. Now is going to be the tricky-ish part, kinda. Alright, we're going to use a mainsail down there on the bottom. Let's get our aerodynamic control surfaces going. Whoops. Alright, now we're going to get our boosters. Because, of course. And I think the Pollux boosters... Let me get this out of the way. The Pollux boosters ought to be enough. But we'll find out in a few minutes. Alright, we'll strut the hell out of all this. Get some aerodynamic refinements. Get some manual struts, because that's always pretty important. And some more down here. Okay. Alright, that actually wasn't bad. 745,000? It's a little cheaper than I expected. And this may have enough Delta V to get us where we're going. On its own. Alright. Alright, what am I forgetting? Got staging. I think that's everything, but I'm sure I'm going to discover something that I'm forgetting after I launch. Because that's the way these things normally go. And so, in case you haven't done too much exploration of the moons of Jool, or haven't kept up with, like, some of the Easter eggs and stuff like that, there are multiple discoverables out on the moons of Jool. I'm not gonna ruin the fun too much. I'm not gonna spoil it too badly. But there are several things that you can discover. Like, you know, we found that crashed Tesla Roadster on Dress. We found, like, the UFO on the moon, the Armstrong Memorial. You know, we found the little rover on Duna. There's some stuff like that you can find on the moons of Jool. One of them I can spoil because it's not really too much of a spoiler. I don't know if it has been, I don't want to say fixed, but altered. There was a huge cave system on Tilo that in one of the previous versions of the game, it was literally like a cave that you could go into. And, you know, it was on the surface of Tilo. But in one of the patches where, like, they changed the terrain algorithm or something like that, oh no. Oh, that's what I forgot. I forgot the separatrons, but it worked out. In one of the patches where they had changed some of the way that terrain was done or whatever, it placed that cave structure, like, below the surface in a way that made it inaccessible. And unfortunately, that ended up being a thing. Now, I know that one of the more recent patches, and I'm saying recent, that might actually be like 3 years ago. Because, again, it's been a while since I've done a full playthrough, so my sense of timing on some of these might be off. And I've been playing this since, you know, since Minmus was new. They did change, like, some of the terrain structuring and whatnot on the moons of Jool. Same, you know, when they did, like, the high-res texture pack and everything for the surface of Dress. A similar treatment was given to the moons of Jool, so they're a little bit more, like, visually interesting on the surface. And I seem to remember that one of the things in the changelog for that patch was that they... Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, let me retract those. I think I accidentally clipped all my solar panels. Okay. I hope Alright, I hope that didn't break those. Anyway, sorry. I seem to recall that they had fixed that problem on Tilo, so that, you know, the caves were discoverable again. But I don't remember for sure. And there were a number of things that were changed at that time. So I'll find out when I get out there. For right now, we're actually almost in a really good spot for an intersection with Jool. Probably about like 3 or 4 months away from a really good maneuver spot. Whoop. You just zoom way the heck in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and escape Kerbal now. And I will admit, I'm kind of curious if this booster has as much Delta V in practice as I hope it's gonna. So I'll find out in a couple minutes here. Alright, me get out of Kerbal completely. Okay, good. Alright, so now... Yeah, so if this works out, this will be good. Jool is right about in position for us to intercept it when it's on the ascending node, which is the best place that you can intercept a celestial body that's inclined, that has an inclined orbit. Look at that. See, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that. Easiest intercept we've done so far. It doesn't get any easier than that. The Delta V's a little tight to get out to Jool. But, you know, I mean, it's super far away. That's fine. And this home and transfer orbit, this is pretty much as efficient as we can get. Excuse me. And as a reminder, all we have to do is get these little mini probes into orbit around Jool. I mean, honestly, with as much Delta V as they have, we might not even need to get them into orbit. We just need to get them to Jool and slow down a little bit. And this skipper engine doesn't quite have enough Delta V to get us there. The nuclear engine will pick up the slack. I don't know how much Delta V off the top of my head we're going to get out of that nuclear stage, but we'll find out. It may have enough to slow us down once we get out there. It may not. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Because all we've got to do is get those 4 probes close. And I deliberately gave them a considerable amount of Delta V. And that shows, like... There we go. Something that's worth illustrating. If you've been watching, you saw the amount of Delta V that we did and didn't get out of our Akatosh X and Zenithar X. And we're probably going to be reusing that Zenithar X. You know, the efficiency of those ion engines is really strong, but, you know, the thrust is really low. And we brought, like, thousands and thousands of units of Xenon with us to get those huge Delta V levels. There we go. Well, when we've got a small probe, like one of these little rinky-dink things that has like 0 weight to it, we're gonna get a really significant amount of Delta V out of those probes. And the thrust-to-weight ratio won't even be too bad. So, I mean, you know, we're not going to be looking at, like, those 40-minute burns like we were with the Kerbal capsules there, the crude capsules. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit at this point, just to skip us the 5-minute transfer here. All right, so we're getting we're getting close to Jool. What I'm going to do here, I'm just going to make a slight, kind of a slight correction burn. Not really a correction burn, but I'm going to see about doing a burnout here to get us a little bit closer to the inner system of Jool. And the reason is simply that it'll be more fuel efficient to do this kind of a burn way out here than it is once we actually get into the Julian system. And when we start to see that kink in the trajectory, that's how we know we've gotten into a pretty good insertion orbit. And look at this, we're really close to the equatorial plane. And really, I mean, I know I mentioned it already, but this was incredibly good luck that we had this particular alignment so close to when we were launching this mission. That worked out extremely well for us. Alright, so we're in on the correct side of the planet. That's always very important. And what's our delta V looking like? We can probably slow down completely and get ourselves into a good orbit. So that's not bad. And you know what? Just because we can, we'll just send some science home from space around Jool. Did that even get us a thing? It did! It got, all right. It got us a contract. Love to see it. Love to see it. Yeah, because we got a whole bunch of these contracts. Some of these we've even already done. Some we haven't. Honestly, there's a few of those I should probably cheat them out, but I'm not going to bother. Alright, so I want to get our periapsis a little bit outside the orbit of Paul. We could keep this particular probe quite a ways further out. But for this purpose, I'm not gonna. I want to have a similar orbit to the DS Relay 2. And that'll be just about all of our fuel. Nice. Alright, that actually worked out well. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rename this. DS Relay 3. Now here's where the fun begins. Look at all that delta V. So now we can start taking this probe, and even under an ion engine, look at just one little wimpy ion thruster here. Look at how quickly we're getting our stuff together. That's not bad. We're getting quite a bit of thrust. We're making our orbital changes pretty well. Oh, look at that. That's good. I'm liking this. All right, let me see if I can get this right the first time. Nope. Because I never get that right the first time. All right. Awesome. Excellent, excellent. And very little delta V. So, I mean, like, honestly, these little probes are overbuilt, you know, to the extreme. Um, but, you know, that's fine. That's fine. When I send a probe to Elu, that one's going to be, and actually that's going to be very soon. That's going to be really overbuilt too, considering the amount of delta V needed to get there and everything. Come on. Now we're bringing our orbit up to get that to get that intersect with Paul. Nice. Very nice. All right, let's see what it looks like. Oh, that looks quite good. All right, 8 days. All right, we've got a couple hours inside Paul's sphere of influence, so we should very easily be able to slow down and get orbit and all that. Should be no trouble at all. And you're going to see my link like jumping all over the place. That's there we are. That's one of the reasons, you know, I do the early work to set up the comm network and all that stuff. Makes things a lot easier when we're out here now. Okay. All right, now we just slow down, and this should not take long at all. And we'll send home some science. Our little things are kind of hidden in there, but... Oh, that's right, I already did. I already did some science. Forgot all about that. Now, this is the one weakness of these probes. You're going to look up here or down here. You're going to see my electric charge is going to run out. That is the one disadvantage of the ion engines. They require a significant amount of electricity in order to operate. So what will end up happening is I'll have to do stuff like, kind of like I'm doing here, where I stop and I interrupt the burn and just fast forward a little while to refill the batteries before I do the burn again. That was less of an issue with like the Akatosh X and the Zenithar X because we overbuilt the electrical generation of those with all those extra solar panels and RTGs. But with a little probe like this, it matters a lot more. Okay, good. Now, I actually do want to check one thing. I want to take a look at my contracts and see if I've gotten... I don't remember. You would think I would remember this, considering that I'm the one who wrote this contract pack. But I don't remember if the contracts are structured... to do an enter orbit contract after we've entered orbit around Jool, or how it is. I just don't remember. Let me take a look. Oh, maybe it doesn't... Does it not have? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, here they are. Okay, I guess not. But that's fine. It doesn't really matter. It was mostly a curiosity thing. Um, we'll get a couple, just having verified that, we'll get a couple of those contracts that open up once we enter orbit around those other, the other moons of Jool. So we got into orbit around Paul. So now it's time for our next little probe here to go off on his adventure. Okay. And now he, or she, however you wanna do probes, is gonna move down and hang out with Bop. And this is actually kind of a stage of the career I really enjoy. I really like exploring the moons of Jool. It's a nice little, fun little system here. One of the careers I did, I actually ended up making a pretty substantial surface base on the islands of Lethe. Not really because I needed the science, just for fun. And that's that might be something I might do at the end of this career. Once I've done my objectives of planting flags on everything and discovering all of the anomalies. Some of them, like the ones on Duna, I'm just going to send a probe to. The ones that are like really annoying to land on Duna, I'm just going to do a probe. But after I've completed all the main objectives, I'll probably put a poll up on my YouTube channel and see, if people are like, all right, we're done with this career mode. We're ready to move on to the next game, or if they want to see a few more episodes where I do some other fun objectives like that, like put a space station, in orbit of the moon or something along those lines, just to keep the career going a little bit further. So we'll see what happens. We'll gauge interest at that point. At this point, this I think this is episode, if I'm counting right in my head, because I'm recording these before I'm rendering them and uploading them and all that, I think this is episode 20. So, this has been going for quite a while. You guys might be sick of it so far, but we'll see. All right. So taking a look at this, that's interesting there. Let me try this out. Can we get away with a similar thing to what we did before? No, it's not going to do anything for us. But what we can do is we can do a little bit of a plane shift. Before anything else. Oh, we should probably get that going. Ooh, look at that. We got a pretty weak signal. I'm going through Dunos 1. Oh, wow. But that's fine. And setting up these intercepts, with the moons of Jool can be a little weird, but it's one of the reasons I kind of overbuilt these probes. Really is so that I can have a little bit more flexibility and not have to worry. So I can do inefficient but technically easy type of stuff. Kind of like this. This is not an this is not an efficient way to set up an orbital intercept. But at the end of the day, it'll be pretty easy. Sorry, so let's go out to about here. Then we'll slow down a bit. There we go. See, that's what we're looking for. All right, just had it. Nice. And that's how we do that. See, doing these intercepts like that is a lot easier when we've got crazy amounts of surplus delta V. All right, we're coming in. Yeah, this is going to be kind of a weird orbit, but that's totally fine. Absolutely does not matter for these probes. Now, these are not relay probes, and that actually is an important distinction. So when we start sending other missions here, we are not going to be able to use these as relays. And really, the main reason for that is I wanted to use that collapsing dish just to save diameter. These probes were built so that I could stack them, I could carry them with me on that probe bus, and have the 4 of them out on the sides there. And fit inside of the fairing. I mean, if I had made these relay probes, it would have dramatically increased the size of the fairing and made it look, be all kind of stupid and stuff. And I just didn't want to bother with that. I mean, you can, but I just didn't want to bother. Something I occasionally do sometimes is I'll do a very similar mission where I'll launch like multiple probes at once. And they'll be relay probes, but they'll, instead of being like tagged or structured on the sides of the relay bus, they'll be stacked vertically as stages, and the antenna dishes and everything, instead of being mounted here on the end, the relay dishes will be mounted on the side like this, so that I can stack the probes on top of each other. The disadvantage of that is those kind of missions get really tall really quickly. And I honestly just didn't want to bother. Beautiful. All right. So this one is going down into Tylo. Oh, oops, you know what? I almost... Yeah, I'm going to do it the easy way. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, you're going to say, After I get the contract, I think it's on BOP for one of the goodies there. I'm going to repurpose one of these existing satellites to go down into orbit around Lethe. You know, because I brought 4 of these instead of 5. And my probe bus didn't quite have the Delta V to bring it down into orbit around one of the moons. You know, that's okay. It's all good. And again, Delta V to spare. You know, the xenon gas has very, very low weight. I mean, honestly, the burn rate on the electricity is what is really the only limiting factor for these xenon engines. I mean, obviously the thrust is pretty darn low, but I mean that's fine. I'd rather have, you know, one of these missions with like a 40-minute burn that I have to fast forward through in video editing, and while it's happening in real life, you know, go do dishes. I'd rather have that than a mission that comes up short, or you know, a booster that's twice the size it needs to be. That's actually really promising. We might even be able to get direct in. Yeah. Oh, how good is that? That would be one heck of a slingshot out. Wow, look at that. Yeah, that would send us off into a pretty crazy gravity assist, but we're not going to be doing that. We're going to go in and hang out. Just transferring down here. Once we get into Tilo's sphere of influence. And one of the other reasons I like to have these probes really overbuilt, like here, you know, you can see I came in, you know, on the correct side of the planet, so to speak, or the correct side of the moon. But when you have a probe like really over-engineered like this, it doesn't really matter what your orbital intercept trajectory looks like. It just doesn't matter. Because you've got so much delta V, if you come in weird and screwy, you can fix it. So, that is always a good capability to have. And again, the reason we're doing that science isn't because we need it. Those science experiments are getting us money. Alright, we're getting low on electricity, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Let our RTGs and solar panels recharge those batteries. And there we go. Okay, not bad. Now we'll get our last little mini probe out. Boop. You give it a little bump. All right. All right, now we're going to go down to Vol. And we'll kind of do a similar thing here. And by coming down on the descending node, it increases the chances of getting a lucky intercept like we got with Tilo. So, you know, sometimes it'll make the work of doing like the manual corrections and all that considerably easier. All right, get our retro burn going. And these burns will take us a little while. And that's okay. Lethe is, it's a really interesting moon. You know, it's mostly covered in water, and it has an atmosphere. And with the graphical mod I'm running, it has a cloud structure. And I'll take a minute to show you that when we get the probe down in there. And that actually makes landing missions a little difficult. But fun. But fun. Okay, and we might, see, look at that, we might, well, alright. We didn't quite get the lucky intercept. But that's okay. Yeah, that's too far to adjust on the way down. I'll just fly down. We'll do it from the periapsis. Now, one thing I know some people like to do with Lethe and especially Eve, they'll use a space plane as their landing mission to take advantage of the atmosphere. Jet engines do work in the atmosphere of Lethe, I believe. It's been a while, but the last time I was there, I'm pretty sure jet engines worked. Nice. Okay. And so that makes doing like space plane stuff a lot more viable. It's difficult to design a space plane for Eve. Well, really, it's difficult designing missions for Eve anyway, and we're probably gonna do Eve last. Even after Elu. Because Elu is difficult to get to, just because of its distance. But the actual landing and recovery and all that is not going to be difficult. Eve is gonna be the challenge. That's the only one that's genuinely hard. And honestly, it's just because getting back into orbit is so darn problematic. Because in order to get off the surface of Eve, with its really thick and really high atmosphere and its strong gravity, you have to land a relatively large vehicle. Most of the time. I mean, I know that there are some crazy things out there people have done. Ooh, excuse me. You know, sending people up to orbit in, like, the landing chair and stuff like that. But I tend to be a bit more conventional. And, you know, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Whatever works. Oh, that is a close approach. Let's get a little closer to the periapsis. And we'll bring that orbit down. And this is Vol. This is probably my favorite celestial body in the game. Outside of Kerbal, of course. Your planet of origin. I really enjoy Vol. When I'm doing career save just for fun, rather than for a video series like this, I do a significant amount of exploration on Vol. I'm sending like rovers all over the place, and it's just one of my favorite places to be. No special reason. I like the visuals. And, the gravity's strong enough where rovers and everything will work without bouncing around and flying off the surface too badly when they hit a bump. But the gravity's low enough where, like escaping to orbit isn't really any kind of a problem. Alright, so let's transmit some science back. Not that we need it, but, we're getting a little bit of money every time we do that. Oh, we're almost out of electricity. Okay. Alright, so let's go back to our Space Center and check and see if those contracts showed up. There should be 2 or 3 of them that are now available to us. Okay. Yeah, this is the cave system. Something strange on Vol. Something on Bop. Oh, look at that. Huge chunk of money from science from space around Tilo. Well, we can do that now for free. So that's going to be good. And I will use our relay probe around Tilo to go down into Lethe, since we're transferring to it anyway. And we'll send some quick science back and complete that contract. It doesn't even matter what. You don't actually have to gain science points to complete those contracts. Just quick 164,000. Alright. So now, we're going to set Lethe as our target. And I'm going to try and set up this burn so that we escape Tilo close. Oh. Alright, well, that failed. But good enough. Oh, hey! Look at that! Oh, yeah, that was that was skill. That was skill. Yeah, I planned that out. That was a skill burn there. I knew that was going to happen. That was deliberate. That's how I do all my orbital transfer burns. When you're so awesome and pro, you can just do that in your head, and just make it happen. You believe all that, right? Just believe the magic. Okay. All right. So yeah, take a look at those clouds and stuff. Those are not, in the base game you don't see any of that. It's just blue with the islands. Same with Jool. We've got some moving cloud layers with some textures that are based off of the planet Jupiter. If you look very carefully down here where I have the mouse, you can see Jupiter's great red spot, where they kind of borrowed the planetary texture, and that's fine. Okay. And look at that. Look at that. It's beautiful. Love it. All right, let's get some science. Transmit some goodies home. All right, and let's see if we can pick up that last contract. Aha, okay. Science from space around Eve. I don't remember if we have science on our probe around Eve. But that's fine. So, we've completed our objectives there. I am going to call this an episode. For our next one, we're going to be doing our final little preparation before we get our phase of flag planting and everything and really go nuts. So, as always, thanks for watching.